Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome back to the channel. So, I always love discussing Harry Potter characters and all the explanations, but I love coming across things I never knew, like certain characters who were supposed to be in the books but were taken out at the last minute. Like the video on Mafalda Weasley I made a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the research and finding out more things about that character. Or when I found out Arthur Weasley was actually supposed to die in the Order of the Phoenix, but he was saved by J.K. Rowling because she just couldn't bring herself to kill him. So she substituted Remus Lupin to die in his place later on in the books, which made me question whether J.K. had a certain amount of deaths that she wanted to occur. I don't know, but Remus Lupin, he should have been saved 100 times over Arthur Weasley. Sorry for you Arthur Weasley fans, but Remus Lupin is the man. Anyway, something that is very lightly touched upon in Harry Potter is vampires. And when I say lightly, I do mean lightly. Now, they were supposed to feature a lot more in early drafts of the Harry Potter story. And I don't just mean the Philosopher's Stone. Don't forget, Rowling had the entire theme of all 7 books already written and planned out. Well, obviously the books weren't written in full, but she had the overall theme for each of the books already planned. And she had certain characters that she wanted to include, and she had certain characters that she removed. Now, one of these characters is a vampire who went by the name of Trokar. Now, Trokar was actually supposed to feature in the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone for my American friends across the Atlantic. He was even supposed to have Harry as one of his students, and have a rather eerie, weary mystique to him. So, this is a vampire Hogwarts professor. Now, I'm going to get into vampires and, the stigma around them in Hogwarts, in the Wizarding World, how the Ministry felt about them, the whole lot. So it's kind of like having a centaur as a Hogwarts professor and how everybody felt about that. But anyway, we'll stick to vampires. Let's keep going. Now, as I said, he was supposed to have Harry as one of his students. He's supposed to have this weary mystique to him. Students will be spreading rumours that he drank other students' blood and, you were to never be alone with him. All of the creepy things that you would normally associate with vampires in combination with the dramatic imagination of a young boy or girl. Now, Trokar is quite an unusual name, and I actually had to look up Trokar, its meaning, what it stood for. Knowing J.K. Rowling, she always seems to have meanings behind her characters' names, and Trokar was no different. Trokar gets his name from a medical device that is used to extract bodily fluid, mostly blood from the arteries, but the issue with this character is that his demeanour was very similar to that of, yes, you have guessed it, Severus Snape. Snape was already the established dark and mysterious professor who had something about him that the students just couldn't put their finger on. So the question is, why have 2 individuals like that? Well, that was quickly answered by Jo quite early on. She didn't. She removed Trokar from the story as there wasn't much substance to his character. There was nothing else she could really do, or, no direction she could really take him. Snape was the dark character, and his fate was written and decided from the off, which meant Trokar was shelved, or more so deleted. Now, J.K. Rowling wasn't too keen on having vampires in the story from the off. She felt like they had a genre of their own, a well-grounded genre, a well-established genre of their own, and highlighted in an interview that there was a big difference in British lore in comparison to Eastern European lore, where vampires have been made so famous, and J.K. Rowling's, her book series was based on British lore, British fantasy. Now, despite all that, she did include a proper vampire in the Harry Potter story in the later books, who went by the name of Sanguini, and actually acknowledged in her books that vampires did exist in the Wizarding World. And I'll talk about that for a few moments before getting back into Sanguini. So, the question is, what are vampires like in the Wizarding World? What's their rules? What's their means of existence? Well, the most surprising fact about vampires from the Wizarding World is that they are not immortal. They don't live forever. They age, but at a considerably slower rate, living to be at least 200 years old in some cases. Now, that was a big one for me, guys, and I'll tell you why. Because I think, first and foremost, 99% of all vampire franchises operate under the banner of immortality, meaning exactly that. They live forever. So, To see JK take that away was most likely her way of differentiating her vampires from the others. Vampires in the wizarding world also were not looked upon as any way equal to wizard kind. No, not at all. More likely just humanoid creatures, no better than werewolves or centaurs or goblins, basically creatures of near human intelligence. Now, these vampires were not allowed to attack humans to drink their blood, but they did so anyway, having the ability to lure their victims into a trance-like state. Because of their outsider status, vampires tended not to live alone, but in groups, colonies, societies, whatever way you want to look at it. Basically, they just stuck together for protection, as the magical government from several countries did not look upon them very well, very kindly. These vampires could also choose to eat normal human food if they wanted to, but would draw much more energy and strength from human blood. They also had quite a bad reaction to garlic, like several vampires, and if I'm honest, I kind of really don't like this weakness in general, guys, not just for the Harry Potter issue, but in all vampire genres. I think it's quite stereotypical and makes vampires appear more comedic, cartoonish, cringy. I don't know, I can't really explain in further detail why I feel like that. It's just something that, I just feel that way about vampires and garlic. But anyway, while studying at Hogwarts, students learn all about vampires in Defense Against the Dark Arts class between the years of their first year to their third year, and that's it. They don't learn about them going forward. Now, it's not explained why the study of vampires is discontinued after 3 years. Maybe there's just no more information on them, like it's a 3-year syllabus or something like that. So vampirism in the wizarding world is not like a transfer of a dark power or a dark gift, as it's called so many times in so many other vampire franchises, but in Harry Potter it's more so like a parasitic plague that overtakes the body, changing its physicality. The individual's strength and speed does increase, but not to the point of where the individual becomes, superhuman like other franchises. The vampire's skin is also extremely sensitive to sunlight, which means they cannot go out during the day, and they are known to not be a fan of sleeping in coffins. So, just a regular room, a regular bed for the vampires in Harry Potter. Professor Quirinius Quirrell actually gives us an on-hand account of his experience with vampires, and he's probably, someone closer to home in the Harry Potter series. So he has claimed to have an encounter with the vampires in the Black Forest during his break from teaching, when he was trying to get some hands-on experience with dealing with the dark art. Now, whether this is true or merely a cover to hide his encounter with Lord Voldemort in Albania is not entirely clear. He decorated the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with cloves of garlic, supposedly in the hopes of warding off a particularly vicious Romanian vampire. So, maybe he did meet this vampire. Maybe he isn't just bullshitting. Quirrell's story about encountering a vampire, it is in some aspects true. I think in some aspects it's kind of maybe, made up a little bit to make himself appear more brave, appear more favourable with the students. But anyway, we will leave Quirinius Quirrell and his vampire experience there and we'll move on. Somebody else who claims to have an experience with vampires was Gilderoy Lockhart. Never fear. I love that moment in the movie where he looks at the girls, he's like, never fear, and the girls are all like, ah. Oh, anyway, Gilderoy Lockhart claimed to have had his own dark encounter with vampires and even wrote a book about it entitled Voyages with Vampires. That's how I imagine him saying it, meaning it was probably a very, very true and accurate book. It just wasn't him that had the experiences. It was somebody else who had these experiences with the vampires, and Gilderoy Lockhart came along, hit a boom, memory charm, took all his memories, took all the experience, took everything, said it was him, wrote a book about it, and made a good little bit of money. However, guys, someone that did have a true, real life experience with vampires was author Eldred Warple, who actually spent quite a lot of time living amongst the vampires, and he wrote a book entitled Blood Brothers, My Life Amongst the Vampires. So throughout his time living amongst the vampires, Warple encountered and befriended the vampire known as Sanguini, who I was speaking about earlier on. Now, Sanguini was a tame-tempered vampire, a tame-tempered individual, you could say, who appeared to keep to himself, but that didn't mean he refused to act on his vampiric nature. Sanguini did have a preference for human blood and set his sights on 1 or 2 students until he was distracted with a much tastier pasty. So guys, there you have it. That is the story of the vampire professor who never made it to the books and how vampires operate in the wizarding world in general. I really appreciate your time, guys. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, if you enjoy the videos of me being on camera, or if you just want the footage and still frame photos, or if you want the blend of the both. Maybe I can do something like that. Let me know how you feel. Thanks for watching. Make sure to look out for the next video because it just might be a little bit better than this one. I'll see you soon.